welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I'm back again with another book review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the book. Well, let me brighten this up real quick for y'all. I'm going to be reviewing the book by Kate Posey called Serial Killer Games. Serial Killer Games by Kate Posey. And look, there's like a little tagline there that says, Tempt, Marry, Kill. So it kind of like gives you an early indicator as to what's going on if the title wasn't a giveaway enough. So basically what this book is about, you have this guy named Jake. He is a temporary employee at this company, and he's like in the accounting department doing some temp work. And he just comes across as very, like, I'll say mysterious, but a borderline creepy, because like people don't know a whole lot about him. And I really think, quite honestly, nobody's really paying him any attention. Most of the time, temps are kind of invisible at companies if they don't sit in on the meetings, if they don't go to lunch with the coworkers. Like, people just, like, you know that they're there, but they're not really included in the circle. The person that's really watching Jake and kind of giving him the whole creepy moniker, there's another employee that works there. Her name is Dolores, right? And these people's name, like Jake's last name is Ripper and her name is Dolores Dela Cruz. So she like spots him, and she's the first person that the author has in the book that gives an indication that they are, think something is up with him. I mean, his behavior, even in his points of view, it's suspicious at best. But it's like a dark humor, very dark, dry humor that runs throughout this book. And I think that Jake, he plays into the whole notion that there's something wrong with him and that he could be like a serial killer, because him and Dolores are in the elevator at one point. Like, there's a bunch of other people in there, but it ends up being just the two of them. And the way that she's looking at him, and she's like noticing things about him that she's like, that is total serial killer vibes, from the way he's maybe dressed or the way he smells or just different things like that. And they end up having this like awkward conversation, and she kind of says that like, oh, so we're gonna do like, take me to the basement and kill me, that type of thing. And so he banters back like, well, I wouldn't take you to the basement, I'd take you somewhere else. So they have this back and forth, like extremely dark flirty relationship where they're basically talking about him being a serial killer and her being his victim, right? So as the book goes on, you start to wonder, okay, so is he really a serial killer? Because it is just some weird stuff about him. Like, he has a roommate and he does all the cooking and cleaning, but it's not like his boyfriend or anything, because it's a guy that's a roommate. And he never really talks about having a girlfriend or anything. And for more than half of this book, I was totally certain I knew what was happening and what was going on. And that because Dolores, she seems like she's a wild card as well. And I felt like, oh, like maybe he really is a serial killer just because of other things he was doing outside of work. And he's probably really going to try to, attack her, but she's going to be ready for him. And maybe she's a serial killer too. No. That was just really just to throw us off of what was actually happening at the core of the story, which it ended up being a romance novel. It's just so wild how we started the story off to where it ended. Now, there were some very, very cryptic things that were being said, but again, based on the way these characters were living and their lifestyles, you were thinking one thing when it was totally something else. And I will just say that in every sense of the word, the two of them were kindred spirits all the way through. There was a really sad part where I was getting really angry because it was hinting at a character death. And I did not want that to happen, but I was so invested at that point. I was like, okay, well, now I got to keep reading. But I will tell you, all in all, without spoiling anything, I will just say this book has a happily ever after, if you can believe that. If you can believe a book that started off basically seemingly about serial killers ends up with a happy ending. That is crazy. Their morbid sense of humor, it was just wild, the stuff that they were saying to each other. And then you learn about Jake's like his background and why he kind of had that sense of humor, someone in his life. Which, again, that whole thing was dramatic when all of that got revealed. I mean, this author took us on a ride from this seemingly suspense story with all the morbid and dark humor. Then it got really emotional. Then it was funny again. And then there was this big total bomb that was dropped, this bombshell about their backstories. And then we went back to a lighter part of the book, and it ended up with a happy ending. Such a wild ride, so worth it. I mean, I cannot recommend this book enough. One of the things that I feel like I hadn't seen this in any other book, but it was like I have in my notes that there's a new term unlocked, and it's called, she was calling it at one point, he was at her house. Jake was at Dolores's house, and I think he had a bit of OCD, and he was, cleaning up and straightening up stuff. And, she was a bit of a slob a little bit, but she called it, she was watching him clean up, and she said that it was like chore play instead of foreplay. And she said that's basically when a man cooks and cleans and, everything, and his wife gets aroused by that. So I had never seen that before. But yeah, he was very, very adamant about things being clean and stuff being in its place. And that even added to the suspicion about him being a serial killer, because most of them, they are very compartmentalized thinkers, and they have to have stuff in a certain way. So that really played into that character. But yeah, I felt like it was a very cute and extremely unexpected story for where it went. Love the chemistry between the two of them and their dynamic. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just crazy the direction that this story took and the total turn. It was a total 180 from where I thought it was going to go. And I think initially, because when I picked it up, I was looking for maybe something, in the vein of the book I talked about, I Kill Killers. I was looking for something a little suspense, thriller, with maybe a little gore or something. And so when it turned out that it was something else, I was actually a little disappointed. But the story itself was so good, it just kept me reading, right? And kept me guessing as to what's going to happen next. Even though it wasn't a mystery, the author totally threw me off with the direction she went in. So I was still left to wonder, okay, where is this going? What's about to happen? And I was not disappointed at all. So yeah, if you're looking for a story that starts off one way but ends up another, but in a good way, and it maybe kind of crosses genres between maybe something that's kind of suspenseful to something that's a little bit more heart-wrenching to ultimately romance, then you got to go pick up Kate Posey's Serial Killer Games, because I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. If you haven't read Serial Killer Games, what did you think? Especially when it took the turn and you were like, so wait a minute, this is what's happening? Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video, and if you have not done so already, go ahead and take this opportunity to subscribe to my channel and share my content with, someone who you may think might enjoy my videos. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.